Sie hören Sport und Musik.
It's John Brooks for the USA!
Das Spiel ist aus! Deutschland ist Weltmeister!
In a world where fans fight over whether to call it football, or soccer, two German men defy the odds and call it Fußball. Bringing you inside the German-American football experience. And now, here are your hosts, the Schnitzel Boys.
Yow! Howdy, howdy, howdy! It's Monday night, which means it's Schnitzel Boys night.
That's
and
right.
Two sweaty, hairy German dudes talk about American soccer. Amerikanische Fußball mit Bier und Bratz mit Pilz. Bitte ein Pilz, my friends. Here on Monday night, it's two German dudes talking American soccer and German soccer, but mainly American soccer this week, as summertime belongs to American soccer. Bjorn, how are you doing, my co-host?
I'm definitely sweaty.
Me too. We have to turn off it's summertime. It's 84 degrees here in Los Angeles, and I have to turn off my fan for the broadcast, so I'm going to slowly sweat and melt. Throughout the thing. What's it like in New York right now?
Yeah, also pretty bad. The last couple of days were very hot. This weekend, today it's a little less, but here in my little below loft kind of
sauna?
It's sauna, yeah.
Sauna.
My family complains that it's too hot in the rest of the house, and I say, "Oh, just spend 20 minutes in the office. Your room will seem much cooler then." Yeah, when I come out of here, I'm always like, "Oh, it's very nice in the rest of the house." But yeah, without the fans, the world is much cooler than this particular spot.
I was about to say the world is on fire, but that's okay because it's summertime.
Yeah, that's right.
So your family has an honest perspective on how hot they are, and all you can offer is the counter perspective of like, oh yeah, well it's hotter with me. So spend time in the office, why don't you? Why don't you work a day in your life, huh? That's your solution to their query.
Well, when you when you put it like that,
It's a very German answer. It's
I'm
something
afraid
my dad
so.
would say. That's what my dad would say.
I am not a huge fan of massive air conditioning, but it is too hot in this place, so something's got to give. I'm working on it.
Well, air conditioners, I think, caused the problem in the first place. It's one of those things where it's like we need it, but it for a long time it ruined our ozone. Now, I'm not a scientist here. This might be a little whippy-woppy. Because in Germany, you don't find air conditioning. There's just not much air. In Germany, there's not.
And there's tons of ozone.
There's plenty of ozone because they never got rid of it because they have good environmental lines. Here in the United States, we're like, let's pull the AC out since the 60s, and they just ripped the ozone apart, and now we have no ozone layer, so we need more air conditioning. So it's like a downward spiral. Now, granted, there's no real facts to back that up. I'm sort of pulling that out of my butt. If you want to talk about how true the validity of that, please talk to me in the comments. Send us an email. We want more scientific.
We're just
analysis.
going to, we'll just, yes, exactly. We have takes.
We have hot takes. Way too hot takes.
Too hot.
And we have cold takes. Too hot. If the takes were cold, we'd rip a hole in the opinion ozone layer.
Oh, nice.
Okay, but we had a lot of soccer this week, and we had a big game between the two of us, didn't we, Bjorn?
Stop it with that.
Didn't we, Bjorn?
What?
How about this? I go all over the place. Let's go chronological. I went to the Galaxy game on Tuesday. Let's start on Tuesday and work our way up.
Oh, the Cup game. Yes.
The Cup game.
The Sacramento Republic.
We had 3 Cup games midweek and then a bunch of MLS games over the weekend. So let's start the Cup. I went down to Dignity Health Sports Park, whatever the heck it's called, and I watched the LA Galaxy play the Sacramento Republic. A really great supporters contingent from Sacramento. So for those of you that don't know, Sacramento Republic was granted an MLS franchise because of how great they were great support. The city supported it. They just had a great minor league soccer team going on up there. And then because I think COVID or some owners pulled out or something, it got canceled. So Sacramento Republic is no longer on their way to MLS. So that's part of the equation. But they're still a very passionate club, very passionate fans. And Tuesday was a great reminder to MLS. It's like, hey, we deserve to be here. And they had a great contingent of fans coming down. There was a really vibrant and loud fan section. And even where I was in the general admission area, midfield, there was a crew of passionate Sacramento fans there. I would say the Galaxy fans obviously outnumbered them, but it wasn't bad. And it was a really fun night out.
And
the Galaxy...
Jonathan Klinsmann was so impressed with this that he said, I will help. I will help the cause. I will do my part.
He did. When Hertha Berlin complained about his work ethic, you see why. It's like on the field, he's there, but it's like they were playing without a goalkeeper in net. Because like the 2 or 3 times he was challenged just went right past him, and he had nothing to offer really.
It was it was kind of a potentially career-ending performance. Right? It's like as a coach you cannot put him.
No, you can't play him.
Can't put him back in.
Yeah, and he's a reserve keeper in MLS, so he went from being like he was at Hertha Berlin as one of like the brightest young German Americans, and he went to a DFB goalkeepers camp where people were rumored that he was going to maybe switch to the allegiances to Germany, even though I don't think he speaks German. And then he went to Zurich, Grasshoppers Zurich, for a few months, which didn't pan out. Now he's back at the Galaxy. And I think he started as a starter for a little bit, but he lost his spot. And you haven't seen him much. And then he gets a cup game. And, oh, boy, that second goal. I remember in the stadium, it just rolled and rolled and rolled. I've been playing a lot of Mario Super Soccer, whatever that new Mario soccer game is on Nintendo Switch. And it's a great game where it's like Mario Kart, but for soccer. And you can't, like, sometimes random goals just happen where you kick from midfield and it just goes in and you just can't control what makes the goal and what doesn't. When I was watching the Galaxy Sacramento game, the Sacramento's second goal was a Mario Super Strikers style weird midfield. It just rolled past.
Yeah, I mean,
even
just in the highlights, you're sort of like, well, he'll get there eventually, right?
Nope. Went right around him in the goal, and that was like Sacramento's 2 or 3 chances. They played on the counter and they played well, and they won 2-0. And LA Galaxy was very lackadaisical, even with Chicharito coming on the field and. I think Douglas Costa has been such a bust for them. And it's Daniel Young in the comments saying tough week for NYCFC. Yes, but also tough week for the Galaxy because in addition to being eliminated, their crosstown rivals, the LAFC, my secondary team, if you will, announced Gareth Bale.
For nothing. Yeah.
For nothing, in addition to Chiellini, and they're top of the league. So it's like LAFC are doing this season pretty hard. And the Galaxy, it's a lot of Chris Klein out. A lot of Greg Vanney out. The Galaxy fans are left.
Oh yeah, the Galaxy fans are
like, yeah, they're mad, they're pissed, and they're still in the playoff position in the league. But it's the way they played on Tuesday. It's like the whole time I'm like, they're not going to get anything out of this game, and it showed. They just had nothing to offer. So that was Tuesday, and then we had a Wednesday. Bjorn, tell me about Wednesday. You were there. You were at the game.
I was there. I made me and Max went out. My son, we went out to Jersey. I mean, it's not like I felt confident. We have a poor record against the Red Bulls recently, and in the U.S. Open Cup all time. I thought it was 0-3. I looked it up. It's only 0-2 prior to this game. It's now 0-3, and. But then we got there. I don't know. I felt sort of good. There was a lot of support, a lot of road support, and the first half I thought we played solid. Didn't really score. Didn't generate a lot. But the front line just did not look good. I think that's been even the previous week against Colorado. Like there was a lot of good. I felt like a good passing out of the press. Obviously the Red Bulls love the chaos.
Gegenpressung.
And I think the defense did a really nice job, and the midfield actually, passing through the press, and then the front line just pissed it away every chance they had. I mean, it was just there was poor passing, or even when they had to open looks, they just didn't connect. It was just very sloppy from the front three, even though on it looked like we were doing pretty well, at least in the first half. And the Red Bulls had some good chances in the first half as well at times, but
I would say they had the clearest one, right?
Perhaps, yeah.
A one-on-one or something, and it was a good save.
Good save from Sean Johnson. And
Sean Johnson.
No, Luis Barraza. I'm sorry. You're correct.
Luis Barraza, right? Yeah.
And
Daniel Young. Red
Daniel
Bulls have
Young.
our number. We need to fight a great performance against Atlanta United. We need to put forward, perhaps, a great performance against Atlanta United. That's right. We do have your number, my friend.
Is it Atlanta? I thought we were playing Cincinnati next, I think. Is that...
Maybe it's Cincy. I'll look it up.
Is that true? Anyway, and... yeah, I agree. Luis Barraza did well. And then, weird goal. Red Bull scored a weird goal in the second half. And
well, there's a clear turning point in this game. And that's that silly. You know what was your biggest undoing was discipline. I think the players are really riled up, which we'll talk about.
I think this is that's true.
Was it
Thiago? Thiago just headbutted
60th minute or something.
He
headbutted
we were already down 1-0, but still in it, obviously. And but then the wheels came off, and we end up losing the game 3-0. And yeah, it was an odd it was an odd thing. Like, what you're saying is true. The lack of discipline. It is a little bit. There is this feeling, and again yesterday in Philly, there was some of that too. The team sort of does feel like they're being coached by an assistant.
Right.
And there is this kind of like, oh, the boss left and we get to do whatever we want. Like, there is just a lack of focus, a lack of just tightness. And
it's clear that this transition is rough. Like how many games has it been? Three
it's
now?
Been three games. Three games.
Three losses, right?
Well, we got a point against Colorado. And that game
but it was a home game we should have.
Yeah, that game we should have won, really. And it's it's not great. And it really is. I mean,
so what that means
is this going to be part 3 of I'm upset that Ronnie Dyla left? I don't know. I keep complaining about that.
Part 3 of 4, perhaps.
Part 3 of I don't know. Part 3 of 10.
10 years down the road, it's like, I can't believe when Ronnie Dyla left 10 years ago.
Everything went to shit.
He's the longest tenured coach in Standard Liège history. He's been the coach there for 10 years. He has 10 league titles under his belt, but still, he should come back. Now, I was going to say the game, New York Red Bulls have our number. We were at home. Despite it was a feisty affair, it was a great match. And then you took our Tom Edwards away. Talk about silly red cards. Tom Edwards got a red card after the final whistle. Really stupid. So now we can't play in our semis for us because he got into a tussle with one of your guys. Then there was just a bunch of tussles. Then there was a fan tussle, like usual, afterwards. Were you involved in any of that?
Yeah, I was. Peripherally, I'm not one to mix it up at this point in my life. But yeah, there was. It all started. It started actually right in front of me, and I totally missed it. There was somebody set off a smoke bomb. Like two rows ahead of me. I don't know who did, and people then were, because some of the, the third rail, the supporters group, brass kind of was looking to me as like potentially, kind of an older, reliable person. It's like, oh, did you see what happened? I'm like, no, I honestly didn't. I was watching the game. I really had no idea what went on, but somebody set off a smoke bomb. And that kind of,
I guess, so silly.
I guess it's a big.
Why even bring smoke bombs? I just don't get any of that stuff.
Well, I don't know. It's not that big a deal. I don't think they're that dangerous necessarily. In in Europe and other places, it's this is more common that this happens, but in here it's a no, and especially in the away fan section, these kinds of things get frowned upon.
I thought someone threw a smoke bomb
on the field. No, this was within
to spite someone.
No. This was within the supporter section. But then, security gets involved and everything. Everybody gets, tempers just rise when this happens. There's a lot of beer. We're losing the game.
For those of you who aren't involved in this thing, because I've seen after that 7-0 at Yankee Stadium, there was a big old tussle outside the stadium. I remember that. You can see the footage of it on YouTube. There's a lot of weird New York versus New Jersey hatred in general that transcends soccer, and this rivalry feeds into that and gets the worst out of people sometimes. This was the worst in stadium experience that I've had over there. I mean, I've been to a good amount of these away games, and I never think twice about being in the supporter section, even with my son. And it's usually very come into the supporter section.
No, it was then became I'm not exactly sure. The whole kind of. I mean, I think in general there were some within the fans, some people are get upset when this happens because it's not supposed to happen, and then some of the supporters feel the need to self-police this and find the people who did this, and so then there's a lot of that kind of thing going on, and then a lot of security came, and then there was some tussling, I think, between cops and some people, and that happened sort of further away from me, and I was still watching the game, so I also, again, I'm not sure what happened, but I saw people during the game, and I saw people people.
If MLS, take note, whoever's broadcasting US Open Cup, whether it's US Soccer, whoever does it, show it. You know what I mean? In the Bundesliga, when there's a tussle in the stadium, the first thing they do is they show it real quick. You know what I mean? Something to talk about. I watched the game on TV, and I had no idea this was going on. The camera should show it and be look, there's a tussle. Go check that out. Isn't that crazy? Then go back to the game. It's part of the narrative. I'm not supporting it in any way. But I'm saying as far as a broadcast goes, it's part of the story. So show it. I don't know. The fact that this happened during the game blows my mind. I thought there was just a fighting afterwards, like there usually is.
No.
I didn't know it was in the stadium, and I didn't know it was during the game.
It was in the section, and it wasn't even clear who was fighting who. But there were some people. I saw one woman especially who was very upset. She was sort of coming out of there crying and said she had gotten hit, and so there was some stuff going on, and I'm not sure who it was and what exactly happened. But this was really the most unpleasant or sort of aggressive that I've seen. The vibe was just weird, and the same thing happened on the field. There was all these after the game tussling between players, and I think this does not. I think this plays into the hands of the Red Bulls, who like the chaos. They like. I would still, even though we lost this game pretty clear, I think, I wouldn't. I was going to say no offense, but it is going to be offensive. I would not trade a lot. I wouldn't trade any of our starters for any of your starters, necessarily. I don't think. I think on paper, we're the better.
It doesn't. No, we have
the philosophy of chaos.
No, well, I disagree with the whole "we thrive in chaos" thing. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I don't think we embrace chaos either. I think they were just fired up and well motivated for the game. But the whole thing about Red Bull is they're a cohesive unit. They're an 11. Sometimes it doesn't matter who the coach is. It's just this free flowing thing that moves forward. We need a number 9. We need a goal scorer. We sign one dude. Again, I've talked about this on a forum, something. I would love to loan out Matthew Hoppe for the rest of the season. I think it would be a win-win for everybody. We need a number 9. He'd play. He's trained at Schalke. He kind of understands the Gegenpressing-System, the counter press system, and but the beauty about the Red Bulls is a bunch of obscure dudes who play at their best because they're they're greater than the sum of all their parts. If that's the phrase, you know what I mean? And they do
Yeah,
such a good job
I
being
think
such a cohesive unit. Like for instance, against LAFC over the weekend, little preview, they played without Luquinhas and without Aaron Long, which are their two arguably biggest stars. They rested them because they had the midweek game against NYCFC, and they LAFC is the best team in the league right now. And New York Red Bulls had the ball. They had way more shots on goal. They had probably more opportunities. LAFC caught them on a couple of quick counters in the second half, which is why it was a 2-0 game. But the New York Red Bulls played a good game. I mean, the up until for 70 minutes they held real strong until quote unquote the dam broke. But if they had Aaron Long and maybe Luquinhas on the field, it might have been a different story. And I think just as a team. And, you know, New York Red Bulls is a fraction of the budget that LAFC is paying for. LAFC has 3 DPs or 3 DP-like players in Chiellini, Bale, and Carlos Vela. Not to mention.
Well, I mean, that's not a something to be proud of. I mean, that just means the Red Bull organization doesn't care about.
I disagree.
I mean,
No, I have a totally different perspective about it. You're right. It would be nice if we did have a higher paid forward, and maybe they'll splash cash on it. We'll see. But I think it's just a great way to do business. It's like it's not about the star record. It's not about the name on the back of the shirt. It's about the name on the front of the shirt. That's the message. And I think no one does that better than New York Red Bulls.
Well, I mean, this is all true for NYCFC as well. Like, I think this, in theory,
True,
and has been in terms of there not being many obvious stars and it being a cohesive unit. But I think it seems like some of that has been lost in this transition.
It's funny. It's funny. Essentially, you know how brothers always fight or whatever. Like the New York Red Bulls, when they were the only team, they were the big stars, the Metro stars. They had Robert Donadoni, Lothar Matthäus, Thierry Henry. They always had a big name star, and then they just changed. And then with NYCFC coming into the league, they're like, NYCFC will take that torch. They'll be the.
Dad!
Do you need to answer that?
Hello?
Hold on,
Yeah,
I'm doing this.
do your thing. No, do your thing. I'll vamp for 5 minutes.
No, it's all good.
Anyway, you're being a dad. Go be a dad. Go do your thing. Anyway, so then NYCFC came in, and NYCFC is Frank Lampard. It's David Villa. It's Robert Pirlo or Pirlo, Andrea Pirlo.
Robert Pirlo.
Bobby Pirlo.
Bobby Pirlo.
You know, it's like we'll be the big stars. Yankee Stadium, New York City, City of Stars. And then what did they do? They're like, that's not how this works. We need to balance roster. We need to get obscure players. So essentially NYCFC and New York Red Bulls sort of followed. NYCFC started following the same playbook. You know, what one is more of a high press system, where NYCFC is trying to be more a possession based system. Whatever, Pep versus Klopp. Essentially, we have our little mini Pep versus Klopp thing going on. But at the end of the day, both clubs are about the name in the front versus the name in the back. Whereas here in LA, where I am, both of the teams are about stars because LA is a city of stars, and they never change that. The LA Galaxy's policy has never been be like Real Salt Lake, which is what New York Red Bulls did. Like Thierry Henry called in Gerard Houllier, who's Red Bull Global Soccer, and said, Real Salt Lake does it right. We need to do it like Real Salt Lake. And that's essentially what happened at the New York Red Bulls. This was the Jason Craig Salt Lake years when they won it, when they were in the final a couple of years in a row. And like LA, to this day, LAFC and LA Galaxy, I don't think, they always have a big name on the books. Chicharito, Carlos Vela, Robbie Keane, David Beckham, whoever wants, Zlatan, The philosophy here in LA is always have a star. Where in New York, they like both of those teams are like, no, it's about a cohesive unit, So I just think it's funny how similar they are. Like NYCFC should be something different. They should have some big name player, right? It's the Yankee Stadium, it's New York. But I don't know if it serves them, so they don't do it, That's why I just think the New York rivalry is fun, because they're essentially similar, in my opinion.
All right. Well, it wasn't a lot of fun for me this week, but glad.
And someday it'll be less fun for me. So you win some, you lose some. This week was great. The New York Red Bulls have no silverware other than their supporter shield. We're in the semis of the U.S. Open Cup, playing against either Nashville or Orlando, the one remaining game. And I'm hoping, we're only 2 wins away from our first piece of real silverware. So, good on us. The other game was
away in Orlando next, so that's not going to be easy.
You mean if Orlando didn't play Nashville yet, did they?
Oh, well, if
Orlando
Orlando or Nashville, that's true.
I think it's
that's
away
on
in
Wednesday.
Nashville.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's either or. Both those games are going to be tough.
Yeah.
The other game was Sporting Kansas City versus Little Union Omaha. They had a great run. Sporting Kansas City destroyed them 6-0 or something and ended their dreams, I believe. Or was it 4-0 or something? Let me take a look here. I should be more prepared here. 6-0. 6-0. 2 goals from Felipe Hernandez, 2 goals from Saloy, and a goal from Carter Shelton. So they ended the Union Omaha's Cinderella run. So Sac Republic is the last remaining minor league team. Maybe they'll make a go for it as we dwindle and wind down here the U.S. Open Cup. We have a comment here from Daniel Young. Previous to the season starting, I made a prediction that the New York Red Bulls will finish between 3rd and 6th in the Eastern Conference. A lot of my fellow NYCFC fans laughed at me. Well, they're just being proud. I think that's a very safe prediction. The New York Red Bulls have made top 6 the last 12 seasons in a row. So I don't think anything about that's going to change this year. And they're looking pretty good. Despite them only being 3rd or 4th place right now, I think they've, I think they're looking good. Looking good. The one brightness to all this here in LA and New York is both New York and LA teams seem to be having pretty good seasons right now. No, Galaxy's maybe teetering on having another disappointing season, but the other clubs I think are having very good seasons. But the one thing about NYCFC is, and I talked to another NYCFC fan about this earlier, you think it's time to hire a coach now. It's a summer break. Like, there are European coaches available. There are other MLS coaches available. I remember I threw out Reyna, whoever the guy was from Charlotte FC. I think he might be a good fit up at NYCFC. Do you think it's time to hire a permanent head coach? Well, whoever. I'm asking you.
It's not going to be that guy, I predict.
Yeah, well,
but
is it time, or should stick with Nick Cushing?
Well, think? I mean, I hate to. It's been 3 games. I hate to. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm not behind the scene. It seems like there's some unsettling signs. Usually, like you get a little bounce immediately after there's a new coach, and we have not gotten that. There seems to be sort of a lack of focus and discipline. We had more tussling in yesterday's game against Philly, and so yeah, I'm not one to sort of be like super reactive after 3 games, but it's not going well so far.
No, it isn't. I'm telling you, it might be time to. This will be a good way to see if I'm again if I'm NYCFC brass. It's time to go hire a big old coach soon.
Big old. I mean, I don't know. It seems like every coach we hire, the first chance they get, they leave, and I don't know. It doesn't seem.
Hire Bruce Arena.
It seemed like the last time. Bruce
hire an American coach. How about that? You nut.
Should we could get Jason Kreis back?
You get Jason Kreis. You get Chris Armas. He's available. Mike
Pecky's
available.
Those are all terrible ideas. So I don't know. I don't know who's available. I don't know who they can get. Who is
DC United guy is available. The guy who was fired.
I don't think that he would be a good fit either. There's a lot of. We'll see. We'll see what happens. It's up. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I've been going on about this for 3
weeks.
It's
available, right? Isn't he?
Could bring him back.
He's been out of work for a while.
He's in Turkey, isn't he? He's coaching Galatasaray, or
he said he coached past tense. I think he stopped. Hold on, let's see here.
Oh, he's out.
Team managed. He's out at Galatasaray. He was there for like only half a year. He was fired for poor results on June 21st. So he was fired 5 days ago. So he's available.
See,
he's available. Okay, is there any news on Sonny Kitzel coming to MLS? Yes. As said on the broadcast over the weekend, he put pen to paper at DC United, but he failed a physical, and the transfer was canceled. And it looked like he's about to re-sign in Germany. It looks like Germany's going to keep him. I think the head coach of the club is going to he's going to stay in Germany. So unfortunately, that looks like it's not happening. It's the latest news, but I don't think anything's official about that yet. Speaking of Germans coming to MLS, I texted you over the weekend, but St. Louis City FC just completed the signing of one
Edward Löwen. Yep.
From VfL Bochum. He
Very
was called
surprising.
He was called German International Edward Löwen. So I had to Google him. I'm like, what the heck does that mean? He
Well,
was a
he
youth
played
international.
He
was
played
on
in the
Olympic
Olympics.
School.
He played in the Olympics. Yeah.
Very
And
cool. But that's a type of signing I love. He's like a Hani Mukhtar, like a good quality trained German player from the system who maybe isn't going to be a big star in Germany, but would be an excellent utility player here in MLS.
I mean, he's at this point a level below Hani Mukhtar. We'll see how he does. I mean, he's a solid midfielder. He wasn't a consistent starter for Bochum, and yeah, we'll see. I think Hani Mukhtar is. And he plays a little further. He plays a little further back. So yeah, but interesting. I thought Bochum was trying to keep him. Because he was on loan, right? I don't think he was actually. Yeah.
He was loan. I don't know who owns this book. So let me look up real quick.
I think it was Wolfsburg, maybe.
Maybe Cologne or something.
And so I thought that Bochum might be trying to sign him, but I guess that wasn't in the cards. And now he's coming to America.
Hertha. He was on the books at Hertha.
Oh, Hertha. Right.
Which is hilarious because it's like Hertha had a rough season compared to Bochum. So probably
it seems like they could use him, but I guess not.
Daniel Young, I prefer Hispanic American coach to NYCFC. Interesting. Here's one. Hugo Perez. How about that for a head coach? Hugo Perez. Or here's another one. Tabare Ramos. New York soccer legend, former Houston Dynamo coach.
He didn't do well in Houston at all.
No, but he was a longtime U.S. youth coach. We'll see. And Hugo Perez, I think, is doing a great job down in El Salvador. Maybe he can. I think he'd be a great coach.
That's true. Yeah. Well, I don't know. And maybe, yeah, we'll see. It's very discouraging. The whole just sort of having the rug pulled out from under, I was thinking dynasty repeats more, and now it's just like, oh, can we even win a game again? I don't know. We'll see.
We all want our Sir Alex Ferguson. We want our we all want.
I'll take our version of Brian Schmetzer. Mehdi Bellucci. I said that on Twitter a couple of weeks ago. Right. Mehdi Bellucci will become our Brian Schmetzer maybe at some point, but not right now.
And I also pitched the idea earlier. What about Brian Schmetzer himself? I wonder how he would do outside of Seattle.
He's not going anywhere. He's tenured. No. He's got tenure.
And he's doing great. Seattle, since they've won the CONCACAF Champions League, they have turned themselves back on in the MLS. So good, Champions League's done, back to MLS. And they had a great 3-0 victory over Sporting Kansas City over the weekend. So let's talk MLS on the weekend. I watched a lot of games this weekend. I went to the LAFC game live. I watched as many as I can on my beautiful ESPN Plus package. And I was also focusing on another project, which maybe we'll talk about towards the end here. But so let's see. Let me look at the schedule. I think the first game I saw was FC Dallas Austin, which was a really great game.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to say there was a game on Friday, too. Let me just see what was the schedule here. MLS. All right, let me go up. Yesterday, Saturday, on Friday. Friday had Cincinnati beating Orlando City 1-0. Good on them. I did not see this game, but good for Cincinnati to get them 3 points. Then on Saturday, we had Seattle creaming Sporting Kansas City. I want to say Jordan Morris got a goal. Good for him to keep scoring, and good on Seattle Sounders. Like I said, they turned it right back on. The DC United Nashville game, I watched this. DC United in rough shape. Their season continues to just go further and further down the toilet. And Nashville had a very confident 3-1 win at DC. Montreal beat Charlotte, I want to say, due to a last-minute goal. I could be wrong about that. Toronto beat Atlanta United. Let me check on this Montreal thing. No, it wasn't a last-minute goal. It was 2 quick goals up top, and then Montreal got a goal in the second half at the beginning for a 2-1 win for Montreal over Charlotte. Toronto beat Atlanta United 2-1. Good on them, because Toronto is having a rough season. They need some points. to get a few points over Atlanta United. Houston beat Chicago 2-0. Chicago's very, very disappointing season continues. Inter Miami beat Minnesota due to 2 very last-minute goals from Indiana Vassilev. Minnesota controlled the game, was up a goal. This is in Miami. Then Indiana Jones himself, Indiana Vassilev, came on in the 80th minute. He scored like the 86th and the 89th or something.
I don't know who Indiana Vassilev is.
Indiana Vassilev, which is his name, great name.
He's from Villa.
Player.
He's a loanee from Villa.
A young American who was a big young upstart guy over at Aston Villa to keep an eye on, and he's loaned to Inter Miami. Loaned him for some firepower up top, and he is making a name for himself. So
I mean, speaking of making a name for himself, he's got an Indiana Vassilev.
I know, is that a great name?
Is there a better name in all of MLS?
No, I love that. Yeah. And he is doing it. He's doing great. Like, he's a type of loan I like. Like I talked about earlier, like New York Red Bulls, we should get Matthew Hoppe, or Josh Sargent or some. There are Americans on the books in Europe.
Josh Sargent, he's making Premier League wages. He's not coming to
Championship
MLS
now. Honestly, I don't want Josh Sargent, to be honest. I want Matthew Hoppe. And, we'll take him for a few months. We'll take you for a season. What a great way to, get in the habit of,
That's what Gareth Bale is thinking.
Gareth Bale saying.
Train in L.A.?
Train in L.A.? I mean, he's thinking about golfing in L.A., I think. Hey-oh.
Oh.
Tom! We got Tom back. Tom, elephant in the room. Gareth Bale. That's right. Gareth Bale. I'll talk about the LAFC game on Sunday. I'll talk about that in a bit. But let me just
somebody was tweeting. Somebody was tweeting. I forget. I think it was Luis Echeverri. Forget who it was, but somebody was tweeting. Well, now Gareth will finally have to learn Spanish, which I thought that was pretty funny.
That is a great tweet. That is a great tweet. 100%. He'll finally have to learn Spanish. Very true. If you don't speak Spanish, LA could be a tough place. And then there was Austin and Dallas, the Texas Derby. 2 great teams. FC Dallas is a great team to keep an eye on just as a U.S. fan because they create a lot of our best players, and they have some of our best players. Paul Arriola, Jesus Ferreira, also young Paxton Pomykal, to keep an eye on him. But Austin, someone was up 2-0. I think it was Dallas scored 2. And then
Dallas was up, and Austin came back.
And then I think it was scoreless at the half. Dallas scored 2 goals with Paul Arriola and Brandon Cervagna. And then Sebastian Druzzi pulled one back. Then Danny Huizen came
Danny Huizen, who he forgot he was on the team. He was like
he'd been struggling with injuries.
When they first set up their roster, when they were new, he was one of their first signings, or they got him in the expense. I was like, that's not it, man.
Right.
He's not.
But he also had injuries.
But he tied the game.
He came off the bench and he almost won the game. He was just very effective in a short play and ended up being a very well fought 2-2 draw between 2 great Texan clubs. And then that was Saturday. And then cut to I lost my thing. And then Sunday I went out to Bank of California Stadium, which I love. It's a great stadium, and I always love going to an LAFC game. And I went to watch LAFC versus my New York Red Bulls, and LAFC won 2-0 due to 2 very quick counterattacks.
And so you switched allegiance. You bought the Bale jersey. You became an LAFC bandwagoner.
I bought an LAFC jersey recently just to have one. I don't have it yet, so I didn't wear it at the game. But just like when I challenged my fandom, when NYCFC came to town, I went to NYCFC to check it out and to challenge my fandom, and all it did was confirm I'm a New York Red Bulls fan.
Oh.
And when I went to the LAFC Red Bulls game, I was bleeding Red Bulls. I don't know what to tell you. Like when LAFC scored, I was unhappy. When Red Bulls did well, I was happy. I mean, I'm a Red Bulls fan. What can you say? But LAFC is my secondary team. It's like my local. That's my Western Conference team.
All right.
So they still have to earn my heart a little bit. We'll see. They have 2 things. First, a big nerd thing. I wore an N64 shirt. Oh God, do I have it? Oh, I wish I had it. I wore an N64 shirt. Sort of to be a black shirt, neutral shirt with the N64 logo. The stadium programs, when I went to the stadium, the programs they give out which is a little piece of paper that has both lineups on, was themed.
They got a program. Is this like a play?
Yeah, like what do they call it? A game day.
A playbill
program. Yeah. And they were.
How
designed...
do they? Wait.
You vamp. I'm gonna go find it. Hold on, you vamp.
Well,
I'll show
the question, I don't understand how this works technically. It has the lineups. How can it have the lineups in it? The lineups get released an hour before kickoff. How do they print this thing with lineups in that period of time? That does not make sense to me. I don't understand it. I guess this would be like a playbill. There he is. Let's see it. We're going to see. Okay.
So here I am.
Let's see.
With an LAFC playbill. So for those of you looking at the broadcast, I'll put a photo up. So first thing, it's the back of this. The back of this is just the lineups of both of the teams.
Oh, so it's not the lineup. It's just the roster.
The rosters.
Because they don't know the lineup ahead of time.
Right. Of those who traveled, like Aaron Long and Luquinhas are not on this piece of paper because they were not with the club. But at the front of it is this. Do you recognize this? This is a recreation of a Nintendo 64 box art.
Oh.
See, they have LA done like N64, the N64 logo, and they make it, literally it looks like NFL Blitz, the N64 game NFL Blitz. So they designed their programs to look like an N64 card. And I
every time.
N64 shirt. No, this is the first time I've seen this. This is the first time I've seen this. Unless there's a theme I'm missing. So it was such kismet. I wore some random nerdy N64 shirt. I go to an LAFC game.
You were too timid to wear your Red Bulls jersey. You didn't want to get your ass kicked.
Well, I could. Yeah, true, 100%. I did not get tickets to the supporters section, which are right above me. So I went to the section below it, and I was surrounded by New York Red Bulls fans anyway. So I should have worn it. Who cares?
So you were no. We need to. This deserves a little bit more attention. Okay. So you, please explain. You felt unsafe wearing your Red Bulls shirt?
Yep. Yeah. Not legitimately unsafe. I don't really care.
What did you think was going to happen?
People would be like, "Oh, look at this guy," or people would be like, "Oh, screw you," or maybe someone would throw a beer at me or something. I don't know. I was just like, I'm gonna come solo. I just make the safer choice. I wore a black shirt, which is available. I have a New York Red Bulls jersey that's dark black and red. Like people wouldn't even tell it's a New York Red Bulls jersey. I could have worn that.
Except it has two giant Red Bulls on it.
That's true. But it's faded a little bit. The LAFC jersey and the black Red Bull jersey are relatively similar. But I wore an N64 shirt. I wore a nerdy neutral shirt. And
you wore a shirt. If you had worn a shirt that said, "Please don't hit me,"
right? I should get a New York Red Bulls jersey on the back that says, "Don't hit me, please don't hit me." No, but also I could have gone up and snuck the supporter section.
That is amazing. I'm just surprised. I don't. I'm not as bold as you. I'm not as bold. I really am not one to. I mean, if you asked,
I've seen.
I'm not one to look for confrontation gratuitously, but I've happily worn my NYCFC outfits to many away games. The worst thing that's ever happened is somebody in Montreal knocked a glass of wine out of my wife's hand. That's the harshest thing. Yeah,
but this is fight back or something. What happened?
No, he was quick to run away. I was outraged. I was like, "What the fuck? This is Canada. Everybody's supposed to be nice." And
and that's a $50
but
glass of wine.
This was out of I guess I hadn't considered that. So this was
anyway. I went to the game.
This was a one-time event out of many games. Anyway, please continue.
Not true. No, I'm also I didn't really care that much. Also, it's kind of like I worked till 7 a.m. and the game was at noon, and I had to find parking, so I had to leave my house at 10 a.m. So I went, I napped for like an hour and a half, and I just grabbed whatever shirt, and I left. Like I didn't do a lot. I didn't do like game paint or anything like that. All right. But it was the one time the New York Red Bulls were in LA this year, so I went to go see it. It was lovely. I always have a great time at LAFC. And good on you, LAFC, for getting a good 2-0 win. The crowd was great. It was on ABC. I think it was the national broadcast.
Yeah.
So that was that game. I'm still a happy Red Bulls fan. They held the ball. They controlled the game. They had more chances. They were more for a team that is tired from their midweek game on the road without their 2 stars. I thought they did a pretty dang good job. So I'm a pretty happy Red Bull fan these days. So that was Sunday, and then let's keep going.
Philly NYCFC.
That's right. That was kind of a harsh game. It was a couple last minute goals, right?
There was. How to be? I mean, I didn't go. So I often travel to Philly for these games.
Right.
This time I didn't go because I thought the Philly did not play in the Open Cup midweek, and so I thought. I mean, usually the away team on short rest is not favored to win, and Philly still hold a grudge from the playoff game. They were going to be motivated. I did not have high expectations, so I was like, yeah, we're probably going to lose this. And in the first half, we played quite poorly, very disjointed showing. Philly had many chances, scored one really weird goal where it looked like there was a cross in, and it looked like both Chanot and Sean Johnson had it covered, and it just kind of bounced off and trickled in. It was very weird goal. And then, but that should have been, I mean, Philly should have had more. They were very dominant the first half. And then the second half, a beautiful thing happened, which is that Anton Tinnerholm came off the bench after being off for more than a year, I think, or almost at least something close to a year with an Achilles tear. He went down at Red Bull Arena, actually. I think it was against Nashville, just without any contact, went down. It was immediately looked bad. So for him to come off the bench was just great to see. And he immediately, the fullbacks had not done well. We had Chris Gloucester on the left and Anton Tinnerholm on the right. And at halftime, Nick Cushing swapped them both and replaced Tinnerholm for Gray and Malte Amundsen for Chris Gloucester. And immediately things went better. Like there was a lot more coming forward, and the team improved. We had not a lot of clear-cut chances. Thales Magno had I think three pretty good looks, and each time tried to pass it into the goal, but ended up just passing it right to the goalkeeper. Like really just these very sort of harmless shots in promising positions, kind of frustrating. And then we got I think it was 88th minute, we got a handball call against, well, first of all, something that I hadn't seen ever before is, we had a tussle on Wednesday. We had another tussle, in this case, with the physio. The Philly physio who was treating treating one of their players, got into our players' faces and had to carded, right? But got red carded, and even Kai Wagner, his own.
So what's
player
going on?
Team.
What's going on? What's going on with you guys over there? NYC? What's up?
Well, in this case, I think this was I don't know. This might have been a symptom of just the union in general having, being a little amped out about us as a team, and that sort of trickling down even to this guy. I mean, this is like, you don't do that. He's not in the game. He's there to help his player. He should not be. I mean, that is just, it's crazy.
How many physios have gotten red cards in the history?
I mean, I don't know. And it's like, what are you doing? And he was relentless. He kept coming and then sort of walked off, high-fiving people. I mean, it was really an odd thing. And so that was weird. But yeah, I mean, I guess to your point, there's something going on. We get very involved in these kinds of things right now, and that is not helping us. But in this case, we did play well, and then we get a handball. Kai Wagner, who was the most upset, first with the physio. He was the one basically telling him to leave.
Right.
He then gave up a handball and was even more upset about that. He did not feel like, I mean, it was pretty clear cut. He was sliding in. He had his arm up,
right,
and it hit his hand. And so Tati Castellanos converted that, and I felt like, oh, this is positive. We have, sort of didn't start out well, but made some good adjustments at halftime, improved in the second half, didn't really, get too much going, but neither did Philly, actually. They had after having a lot of good chances in the first half and really should have been up more in the second half, didn't do much at all. And so I was feeling pretty good about things and was like, oh, we'll happily take this road point on short rest. And then more drama ensued where then Jose Martinez sort of shoots. This is actually, if I can say, I carry some responsibility here because I was tempting fate by making fun. Max, my son, and I were watching this on TV, and I was making fun of Corey Burke.
Sure.
I mean, Corey Burke.
Bullying someone?
Corey
Why are
Burke.
you bullying young Corey Burke?
Corey Burke comes off the bench. He looks like he can barely walk. He is like I don't understand.
His goal was very scrappy.
I don't understand Corey Burke. He basically hurts himself every time he goes after the ball. Anytime he has to sprint, he looks like he needs to go to rehab. I was mocking him in front of the TV. I was saying, "Oh, brace yourself. Corey Burke is coming off the bench. Whatever will we do?" And so and I got punished for this hubris. There was a shot from distance from Jose Martinez, and it bounced off Corey Burke. I mean, he knew nothing about this. He takes no credit, but it bounced off of him and surprised Sean Johnson and went in. And at first it was ruled offside because there were two players offside in front of Sean Johnson, but Corey Burke, who it bounced off of, was not offside. And upon VAR review, the ref decided that the two other offside players were not really interfering, which I think was probably correct. And so then we lost the game 2-1. However, we should have had another handball penalty, or could have, in the very last second. There was another Philly player, I forgot who it was, touched the ball with his hand lightly in the box, and then for reasons unknown, that was decided was not a penalty. And that was the last. To get you guys over there. That was the last kick of the game. Yeah. Anyway, so and then more post-game tussling. Also, I don't know, Philly Union very celebrating very ostentatiously about this, like Corey Burke flipping off our fans. I don't know. That's not cool.
Yeah, the rivalry is real. NYCFC and Philly's building, dude. That's
everybody hates us, I guess. Everybody hates us now.
Well,
and,
what I will say is that since in a slowly post-COVID world, just everyone's just riled up. Like, I'm not just talking MLS. Yeah. I'm just talking like in the league, in Ligue 1 in France, games get abandoned seemingly all the time because like people, and up in the northeastern corridor, especially in the big cities like in New York and in Philly, where people had to be freaking like in quarantine, like a powder keg. You could tell, like, we're out and about, and people are not happy.
I guess, more
fearless.
Civil war is imminent. All right,
it's just
wonderful.
a little, people are fighting. We need a little peace. We need a little love. But at the end of the day, Philly is doing great. They're top of the East right now. NYCFC,
because of the
game in hand. Hold on, because of what?
Well, if we had tied, we would have tied, we would have kept it. Yeah.
If we would have tied, you didn't tie. You lost. So Philadelphia is top of the East. NYCFC is second in the East with a game in hand. You still have a game in hand.
Yeah, except we can't win. We don't win anymore, so it doesn't matter if we have games in hand.
Montreal third, good for them, because they need a good season. My New York Red Bulls fourth place. I'm more than happy about that. Orlando City and New England fifth and sixth, and Cincinnati in seventh. God, do I want Cincinnati to make the playoffs this year? They've got a great fan base, a great club, and they just could never get it together. And I would love to see them in the playoffs. And then, Chicago and DC United in the basement, really struggling. Columbus and Toronto kind of rebuilding this year a little bit, although Columbus doesn't have much to be excited about, except for the huge new super signing, Chicho, which seemingly came out of nowhere. Columbus just splashed some real cash on a young Colombian number 9. So good on them. Good on Columbus for doing that. We'll see if that'll turn their fates around for the second half of the season. Atlanta, 10th place. Charlotte's an expansion year, so 9th place with a new coach. Inter Miami, 8th place, You kind of expect that from Inter Miami, still getting their act together a little bit. And there you go. That's what the East is looking like. We're about halfway done the season, and things are looking pretty balanced here. Like there's no one shockingly poor. Maybe you expect Atlanta United to do better with what they pay.
Yeah, it's true. The bad teams are better this year. There aren't really a lot of. It's true. Yeah.
I would just if Cincy makes the playoffs, I'd be all about that because I've got a special spot in Cincy. I like Cincy as a city. Western Conference, LAFC top of the table, top of the league, and they've got reinforcements coming. And I wonder, Bjorn, if this will be a good thing or a bad thing for LAFC.
I mean, I have questions about their front line and just defensively. I don't know. We'll see. Gareth, if they all start.
Well, those are the two fixes, then, aren't they? Chiellini, one of the best center backs of history, although he's 37.
He's a little...
And Gareth Bale, one of the greatest goal scorers also the past few seasons,
One of the greatest goal scorers these past 2 seasons, Gareth Bale.
Few. Not 2, because it probably ended about 2
One
years.
of the few best...
No, few seasons. He scored one of the greatest goals in Champions League final history. That was 3 years ago.
Okay.
His super duper thing. You know what I mean? Don't poo poo Gareth Bale. Gareth Bale is a great player. I know his heart isn't in it. I know he's a mercenary. Like they would say in Brazilians, mercenario. I know he's just a mercenary.
Yeah, I mean,
but he's a world class talent.
He's going to be motivated. He's leading Wales to the World Cup. He's
here to learn about the American defenders. He's here to learn about Aaron Long and Walker Zimmerman. He's being very smart. He's here to figure them out, and then in turn, Aaron Long and Walker Zimmerman, and maybe Miles Robinson
will get to figure him out.
We'll get to figure him out. So it's a win-win, I think, for everybody.
Everybody's gonna get figured out, and then we'll have a scoreless tie against Wales because everybody's just neutralizing each other.
Oh, maybe
from such intimate knowledge.
And guess who's second place in the West, by the way?
I don't have to guess. I can look this up.
No, it's guess.
RSL, man.
Real Salt Lake.
And Austin is third. Yeah.
They're having a great season this year. And again, just like Cincy, Austin has a great fan base and a great crowd. I know they tried to steal Columbus, but I don't hold that against them down there, except for the owner. And I think they're having a great year. FC Dallas with Paul Arriola and Jesus Ferreira, 4th place, having a good season. Nashville's having a strong showing again this year, just like last year, with my old boy Dax and
different conference, but still good.
Still doing it. And our boy Hani Mukhtar, who's just playing week in and week out like a champion that he is. LA Galaxy, 6th place. They're slipping. Seattle Sounders are 7th because they're marching their way up. So in the second half of the season, I predict Seattle Sounders to climb. And I'm curious if Columbus will start to climb with their new fun Colombian signing. We'll see.
Let's see. Dynamo
teetering right outside the playoffs. Vancouver and New England had the other game last night. A very boring scoreless draw. Vancouver in 9th. Colorado 10th. Portland 11th. Maybe they're underachieving because you expect more from Portland. Minnesota 12th, who just re-signed their head coach Adrian Healy for a few more seasons, oddly enough.
Also
12th place.
Also tenured.
Sporting KC in 13th place. They're having rough. And San Jose, the tramp donkeys of the West, San Jose. They need to get their act together, too. Hey, Machias Almeida's available. How do you think about Machias Almeida as my CFC coach? Former San Jose coach.
Should I say something about that? Is that a real idea?
What is your problem with really talented Argentinian coaches? You hate them all. All the ones I offer, you're like, no.
What do you mean? Who are?
Just all the Spanish coaches.
I would love a
the guy from Charlotte. Now the guy from San Jose. Machias Almeida.
They all got fired for being terrible.
Yeah, but that's also part of the club. I don't know.
In terms of not just in terms of on the field, but also like. Well, the other two.
Machias Almeida didn't have support from San Jose.
No, this is not that. I don't buy that narrative. They brought in a bunch of his guys. He was responsible for part of that roster. This is not. He can't escape blame for the. I mean, he was there for many, many years. I don't know. Matthias. The other two, by all accounts, seem. There's questions about them on the field and off the field in terms of like perhaps being questionable humans. So
well, again, this is a whole nother discussion. You and I are two sides of the coin here. When I hear about coaches getting fired because they're too tough on what they expect from their players, I, as a fan, am on the side of the coach. I'm like, these are $1 million players. We pay a lot of money for season tickets. Yeah, they're not allowed to eat McDonald's before a game. I agree with that. Yeah, they're supposed to have a certain body fat percentage. I'm not against that. And what happens is the players complain and they get fired. And I'm worried there's just a general all-around lackadaisical culture that's supported here. And you know what I mean? Like so you have to yes-and it. You have to lean into it, as opposed to a place like Europe where it's like our way to the highway. You're showing up at preseason with 24% body fat, you're fired. Contract canceled. We're here in MLS, it's like, yeah, that's fine. We'll spend a few months with you trying to slim the weight. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think it's quite so black and white. I think there's lots of that in Europe too sometimes, where people, are more committed than others.
We've had a lot here, though. Gabriel Heinze, I think, was cut for that. The DC United coach was cut for that. The Charlotte FC coach was kind of cut for that. Brad Friedel, he wasn't fired for bad results, but he commented on that as well. We've had a lot of.
But I think that's also. I mean, that's also maybe it's not like we have all these other teams that are succeeding where everybody's overweight and nobody practices. I mean, it's like, this is all. It's part of your responsibility to have people buy in. You can't just be like, stomping your feet and yelling at everybody. And then when it doesn't work and you get fired, then it's like, well, it's because everybody's soft. I don't know. Can you, there's no responsibility there on the part of the, I mean, I think every case is different. I'm not saying, I'm always on the side of the players, or like Man United, I think it's probably an example for where players are not taking any responsibility for the stuff that's happening, or less than they should own, perhaps. Right. So I'm not saying it's one way or the other, but I certainly wouldn't say like, oh yes, the coach should be tough and the players, I don't know. It's like, it's a team, right? There's a magic to it. You gotta. Well, it's like, why should this happen now? You look at NYCFC. Ronnie Dyla leaves.
Right.
Everybody's the same. All the players are the same. Everybody. Nick Cushing is saying, "Oh, I'm not going to change anything. We're gonna." So what happened? What's different?
Psychology.
I don't know. There's psychology. It's like
psychology.
It's not a science. It's an art. It's like you don't know what happens. People think differently. People sort of. The attitude subtly changes in ways that are hard to track, and then something that was tight and working before sort of falls apart. It's a little so yeah, I don't know. I think it's very hard. It's very hard to analyze those things and be like, oh, this is what happened. So to be like from the outside, oh, they are all lazy and want to just eat McDonald's all the time, and that's not the coach's fault, I think is also reductive, perhaps, maybe. But I would not want either of those guys coaching my team, to answer your question.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's not fair. Because they're Argentinian or whatever. I don't have anything against Argentinian coaches.
Are you sure? As a German, you never had a grudge against Argentinian soccer players. There's no 1986 final, 1990 final, 2014 final.
Tati. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, Tati Castellanos Argentinian. It's all good. Maxi Morales. I have no problem. It's not a nationality thing.
Argentinians are the patron saints of MLS. They're like our backbone. They give us they sprinkle in and give us a little flair. Anyway, but I a couple things. I would love to be a fly on the wall of a season at an MLS club and just see what it's like day to day, and come up with my own conclusion to see how accurate versus not. You know what I mean? To see where I'd fall.
I recommend that
to be like, oh yeah.
I recommend that NYCFC documentary. I think it's really interesting in that regard. Yeah, it's not. It doesn't. Yeah, it's like it's very inside baseball because it doesn't really have a great beginning, middle, and end because the season was so kind of nondescript in the end. But it is for those things that you're describing, sort of behind the scenes, it is pretty interesting.
Seattle Sounders had a documentary too that came out a few years ago.
Oh yeah, did they? Okay.
So I just remember there being a great viral video of Ziggy Schmidt, just the great Siegfried Schmidt, rest in peace, just ripping into him in the locker room at halftime, being like, "You are better than," like a real great like coach's speech. And it was sort of a preview to a full-length documentary about the Sounders. And it must have played at festivals or something. I don't know. I should go try to go find it. I was just going to say the great Uli Hess Lichtenberger, who's a great German soccer writer, wrote an article about running into two players at McDonald's. I think he ran into David Seaman once, the great English goalkeeper, and he ran into a Dortmund player at McDonald's. And both times, they both had games the next day. And both times, they both lost their games.
So that's it. That's so science.
Not great.
Science.
McDonald's is not great prep. Like when Weston McKennie's doing his Chipotle commercials, and I was like, not too much Chipotle, okay? Like lay off the Chipotle, bro.
It's Chipotle. Like where does Chipotle rank on the McDonald's scale? If McDonald's
honestly,
is a 10,
only a little bit maybe only a tad healthier, Probably less sugar, but you know how fast food is, Tom, League One was ridiculous this year. Yeah, talking about the Brawls.
Daniel Young thinks 10% body fat or less he wants.
Yeah, I agree. At least, at most, I think American MLS players are too light to been fit. I agree that our league would be better placed. Yeah, because going to Europe doesn't make you a better player. The competition there takes the best out of you. So our players just adapt and get better. It's just a mentality thing. There's no reason they can be that here as well.
Do not.
Maybe they're a little too lax.
I absolutely don't agree. I think fitness is the least of MLS's problems. I think the fitness level is probably the same or better than anywhere else. I would.
Looking chubby. We got Chubbyito around here. I'm seeing that belly on him.
He said he has. That's a different problem, right? This is like people who think, like Higuain. This is like people thinking they can phone it in.
Well, Higuain's
but that's not.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say, I think there are probably examples like that of people who are, those kinds of players. But I think in general, I don't think fitness is the problem. I'm gonna say.
I mean, of the list of problems, it's at least on as low. It's not high.
And I think the tempo is pretty high, and like in terms of just run, like people do a lot of running. I mean, I think it's almost. I think one could. I'm now just kind of making this up as I go here, but I think one could perhaps make an opposite case that there is too much emphasis on just kind of running and just physical like sort of intensity in MLS versus maybe being a little smarter about the game itself. So I think
I would agree with that.
I think there is. I think that would almost sort of be the opposite take in a way.
It's just triangles and counters. It's just like go to the side, triangle it up, try to get in the box, and then get them on a counter. Yeah, no,
and people just going up. Yeah, people just going hard, versus being like, a little more space, try to figure something out. Like Pirlo, Andrea Pirlo is the pinnacle of fitness. Robert Pirlo. Were you thinking of Robert Perez? Probably.
No, he never played in MLS. I don't know where I got Robert from. I don't know.
Anyway, so. I think there's plenty of not that fit, like, I don't know, Luka Modric, Toni Kroos. I mean, these are not physically imposing, they're not like gym rats or that they're, but there's like
but they're in peak physical condition. Toni Kroos and Luka Modric, they have to be with Real Madrid and what they're playing week in and week out. They're slim and they're fast. They're good to go. If Luka Modric, Toni Kroos came to LAFC, they'd be hitting up In-N-Out Burger and they'd be a little chubby chub by next year. That's my conspiracy theory.
So let's see. Let's wait until
find out.
Let's wait until Chiellini takes the field after some of that. And
boys gonna love the In-N-Out Burger and all the great Mexican cuisine that Southern California has to offer. Well, anyway, so that's been the league in a nutshell. A halfway season almost. Next Monday is July 4th. It's our special July 4th broadcast. I love July 4th.
Oh, and you have something planned.
I have something a little bit planned. We both do.
This is going to be
over the weekend.
The Schnitzel,
Yeah.
the Citizen Kane of the Schnitzel boys.
yeah, Rosebud.
Our magnum
What is
opus,
Rosebud?
our
Magnum opus.
our 4th of July magnum opus next week. Tell your friends.
So tell your friends, Daniel and Tom, please bring friends to the podcast. We love you. We want your friends here. We had 3 viewers, by the way. I'm like, who's the third? Chime in.
A stranger,
Expanding.
a stranger tuning in.
What was I going to say? So, in the wake of this fun Apple TV news, there's so many uncertain things, there's so many things we don't know. As a fan, I've decided to offer my 2 cents to the league and to maybe influence some decisions down the road. But anyway, I looked at all the local broadcasts over the weekend, and I analyzed all the local play-by-play guys and the play-by-play teams that every club has, and did a very thorough, very typical me with my ADHD, and maybe I'm on the spectrum somewhere, maybe. I did a very, very thorough analysis of all the play-by-play guys, and I wrote a little list of my least favorite to favorite. I'll talk about it a little bit, but I want to offer a definitive list, and Bjorn, maybe you'll play along too. And
Definitely.
Next week, we will offer you our top 10, maybe, or maybe top 15 of our favorite of the local MLS talent to maybe become the new national talent of our upcoming Apple
for
TV
the Apple
deal.
TV deal. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. I mean, it's I'm definitely along for the ride. It's been interesting to see because it's invariably, I have a lot of Euro friends that I hang out with who are soccer, football people from Scotland or England or I mean, I think that's mostly it. Scotland, England, actually. And so whenever I get them under duress to watch some MLS thing or my team or something else happens, invariably there's immediate comments on the announcing, on the commentator. Oh my God, how cringy is this commentary?
Right.
And so, and sometimes I agree, sometimes I don't. I also get upset at a lot of the Premier League commentary on NBC. I mean, I don't like everybody. But anyway, what I was going to say is that it was interesting now that with this Apple deal that all these local teams are going away. There was just a lot of love expressed on Twitter and by people saying like, "Oh, we love these guys. We are so attached."
Right.
And I have to be honest, that was not my first. I was like, "Oh yeah, those I can kind of take them or leave them for the most part." And so I like this idea. I do think it's very much worth sort of looking into, and I think we could also just talk a little bit what makes a good announcer and what are we interested in? Yeah, what do we like?
Well, we have talked about like some people have like okay. 2 things. Firstly, when I analyze, I do love the local love. It's so interesting how, despite all the criticism, now that they're leaving, people are like, "No, we love you. Where are you going?" But where was that support beforehand? On the Real Salt Lake broadcast, David James, their play-by-play guy, and Brian Dunseth paused for a minute and thanked the fans for reaching out on social media and sending messages, how it was not lost on them, and how much support they got. And I think the Real Salt Lake announcing duo is a good duo.
Brian Dunseth is great, yeah.
Dunny and DJ and Dunny, I think is what they're called. They are a great little duo. And analyzing everybody, I must say that the reason I originally I have a list from first to last, and I actually have it right here, but I'm going to maybe analyze it again. I felt that was unfair because even the guys that were on the lowest part of my list, it was very, very, very difficult to parse them through because even the guys on the bottom of my list were, I thought, pretty good and professional play-by-play announcers. Like no one is god-awful. Everyone is a pretty dang good professional play-by-play announcer. And I think everyone has a decent person at the very least.
Well, I think like a lot of them are not really soccer people. I think Joe
Right.
Tollison is not a soccer guy by inclination or history. I think,
Right.
he kind of he got into it, and then they pair them with these color guys who are soccer people, like Ian Joy definitely is. But I mean, I think both of the, yeah, just to give the NYCFC example, it's like I think they're fine. I mean, as opposed to the radio, Glenn Crooks, who's the radio guy for NYCFC, he's he was a college coach, and like he is like a great. His analysis is great. He really has a lot to say. I enjoy listening to him. He has a podcast. I don't think I don't seek out Joe Tollison's opinions about the team, outside of his commentary. And I think, anyway, but it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to talk about.
I learned today that Joe Tollison, is Joe Tollison the program director of Sirius XM FC? I heard he's like, his main job is he's like the producer at Sirius XM FC or something.
Oh, is that true?
Which I didn't know. Someone told me that. I was like, oh. So he has like a full-time job as like a program director with soccer content.
He was also like doing some announcing for the Rangers for hockey. So maybe he's just busy.
Yeah, I was going to say, most of these guys are hockey guys. And I guess we're saving previews, but like the other thing is the big elephant in the room for American soccer broadcasts is, do you go British or not? Do you go British or not? That's probably topic number one.
I mean, I have.
You offered that, right? I have a pro-British bias, but you have an anti-British bias, maybe.
I mean, I have just in the sense of like, why does everybody have to be British? Like, what is the? I mean, I think I also, I think there is. I think that sort of permeates a lot of American television aside from sports. I've had that. I had that in my professional life elsewhere, where people just kind of get jobs solely based on having an English accent, like
as an actor?
Because that.
You kidding me?
Right, right. Same thing, right?
The Brits are taking all our jobs. Okay, they're taking our jobs.
It's just it's there's just sort of this implication that there's some kind of sophistication and knowledge and style or taste. This all kind of implied just because of the way they speak. So I don't know. I do have questions about that. I don't think I think there are other. I mean, certainly the whole, especially in this country, there's the whole South American or Central American tradition is completely pushed aside in favor of these Brits, and it's like, okay, I don't know, like.
That's a whole nother thing. The guy who's last place on my list, and I won't say his name, we'll talk about it next week, is the only guy that kind of follows that tradition. He's like a Hispanic American, and he speaks with a thick. I guess I'm kind of giving away because he's the only one, but like he speaks with like a Spanish accent, kind of a little bit, and he does play-by-play.
And you don't like him.
For me, I'm just like. That's the worst of both worlds. Like remember a 2018 World Cup.
I don't
remember
agree.
the 2018 World Cup when they had a guy. Where
they had a bunch of
who's a great Spanish language commentator. Spanish language commentating is amazing. I love it. You can barely go wrong. There's that really deep voice guy at Unimas who's like, "Bienvenido a lo fútbol." I love that guy. It's like, "Tenemos un gol. Hola, el gol." Like I love that guy. There's another guy. And when he did that World Cup in 2018, he'd start every game by being like, "It's soccer time." Remember that guy? And I'm like, what the hell is this? It's like, just be Spanish. Like, just
I think in 2018, I do remember that they really made an effort to have a very diverse team, and it didn't always work.
But it's the worst of both worlds.
I think that is where we should go. I do think I like the way that ESPN does the Bundesliga. They have a bunch of German guys, which sometimes they're sometimes they're not great.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're.
But the play-by-play guys are solid. You're talking about color commentary. The play-by-play guys on the Bundesliga broadcast are very solid, I think.
Yeah, they're all English. They're all English again.
Ross Dyer, Derek Ray, who's Scottish, and Ross Dyer.
Yeah, I mean Derek Ray does that thing where he like is very proud of how well he can enunciate German.
Well, he
Which
speaks good German. He speaks good German.
That irks me a little bit. The way he.
I love it. I love
we
it.
We have
so much to talk about.
Clearly, we have a lot to talk about. So that's gonna be next week.
A full analysis on the American soccer voice.
Very
That's
good.
The name of our
Daniel Young is saying how if Apple TV is airing games on Wednesdays and Saturdays only, I think NYCFC will not play any further games at Yankee Stadium in the 2023 season and beyond. Do you think I'm wrong? We talked about this last week about this whole Randall's Island situation, this rumor that that the team might temporarily move to Randall's Island. And I think that is probably, at least partly, in response to that idea that, when there is even less, because this has been a problem. This is why, because Yankee Stadium was fine. We didn't have these scheduling problems for the first few years because the MLS schedule was much looser and much more sort of disjointed. And as the league is trying to streamline the schedule, that has created these problems because Yankee Stadium's not very flexible, and then there's just certain dates that are not available. And yes, so I don't think you're wrong. I think this is really putting further pressure on the team to find a different solution. And we will just see what that is. Baseball home games are very unpredictable when they will happen due to the variety of weather elements. Yeah, the Yankee Stadium, even Yankee Stadium plus Citi Field doesn't seem, even this season we have some RBA games in there. So Daniel Young wants to see Snoop Dogg as a soccer commentator.
I think
he's a fan actually. He seems to like.
You know who I worked with once upon a time? A little Stefan history here, a little name drop. I did a thing on MTV many years ago at a very small featured part on a show called Middle of the Night Show. And the Middle of the Night Show had a new guest host every week. And that week it was Waka Flocka Flame.
Oh, okay.
Waka Flocka Flame was the host. Really cool dude. I got to hang out with him set a little bit. And he was a very, very excellent, just what do you think, a very positive dude, very funny, he was a great around presence on set. And he is a huge Atlanta United fan. And I think he's been on Atlanta United broadcast before.
Oh, yeah. I have heard that too. Yeah.
He's great. But yeah, I would love Snoop Dogg as a color commentator with a stuffy British voice. And it's in the back of the net. And then Snoop Dogg coming on there being like, chill.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. D-O-double-G. Yeah. I don't want to do too much of a Snoop Dogg voice. I'm old because I remember back when he was Snoop Doggy Dog. I remember the old Snoop Doggy
that's right.
Days.
That was his
California.
original.
And then he rebranded.
Yesterday my son made me listen to a new single that he put out with Eminem. Not great. Not great. I wasn't impressed.
Eminem and Snoop Dogg, that's classic radio. Those are golden oldies these days.
I know they were sort of united in their struggle for continued relevance. Yeah.
So do you have anything else for us? We had a great week of games in MLS. NYCFC could do.
I had we talked about Leuven. I don't know. I think we haven't quite. I guess this is also, it's still early days. There's the summer transfer window. I guess the little preview, and we'll talk about this more, but just kind of planting the seed for future topics is that Jürgen Kohler, World Cup winner and defensive legend, Jürgen Kohler, perhaps one of the greatest center backs of Germany of all time, maybe. He thinks that the favorite to win the title this year is Dortmund and not Bayern.
Well, he's also a longtime Dortmund player, isn't he?
He played for both. Both Dortmund and Bayern. Yeah, I don't know where his allegiances lie now, but this is just to say, and we'll get into this more.
Right.
That
the Bundesliga got rid of the Bundesliga.
Dortmund has had a great transfer window, and
but overall, the Bundesliga in general, what they did was they got rid of their two best players, and they're like, "Good, now we got rid of those guys. Next year,
we're talking about Lewandowski and who?
Erling Haaland.
Oh, right.
That's what happened this summer.
He's the second best, I guess. Okay.
I mean, for attacking,
and we had, and there's a lot more there's a lot more of that. There's now Awonyi, from Union Berlin, just is going to Forest, and he's a young talent. I mean,
Right.
that's true. That is a thing.
The two marquee players the Bundesliga had, if you had to pick two, was Erling Haaland and Robert Lewandowski.
I mean, Robert
The
Lewandowski,
old money, the new money.
he's not gone yet. That's still getting worked out. But
Last
then
I
on the
heard-
other hand,
yeah.
the flip side to what you're saying is the Sadio Mane transfer in is the biggest in, I don't know about ever, but certainly in a long time.
That's exciting. That's true. Maybe I'm being unfair. That is true. Yeah, that's exciting. Sadio Mane coming in for Bayern München. You know, I mean, I wish Jurgen Klopp the best. I would love to see Dortmund win a title again. They got their Niklas Süle, which is a big. The big thing about Dortmund is, can they plug up their defense, for crying out loud?
I mean, they have a bunch. They have a whole new back line. Yeah, they have Schlotterbeck and Süle are new, and I mean, on paper, that is a good looking team. We'll see.
Yeah, that's the German back line, pretty much. And how much faith do you have in the German back line?
Well, when Tony Rüdiger is involved, I have a lot of faith. Without him, we'll see. But yeah, this obviously there'll be a preview. We'll get into this more, but this is just something that I read today. Jurgen Kohler has faith in Dortmund.
But next week, July 4th, Schnitzel Boy special, we dissect the voice of American soccer.
All right.
Tune in next week for that special. I'll be releasing the podcast.
John Strong, thumbs up or thumbs down?
Thumbs up, I think. Thumbs up. You know, I'm okay with John Strong. My favorite American commentator of all time is probably JP Dellacamera. I love JP. A little preview for him. We talk about what makes a great commentator, different types of commentators. Another topic is a lot of them are hockey guys, where I want to offer a different sport we should be stealing commentators from.
Tennis.
We'll save that. No, not tennis, but maybe not a bad idea. We'll save that for next week. One of my favorite local play-by-play guys is a very, very clear type of announcer from this favorite American sport. And I think it's a great voice that serves the American soccer game well. And I wish we could explore it more, but we don't. There aren't too many of guys from this sport doing soccer. But I'd love to talk about that again next week. I leave you on the edges of your seats as the Schnitzel Boys dissect the American soccer voice.
Sounds good.
Any other last thoughts, Bjorn?
That be it.
That be it. Another great week in MLS, American soccer. We'll see you all next week, where again, the July 4th special will dissect the American voice. Like and subscribe, rate and comment, tell your friends, tell your parents about us, tell your brothers and sisters,
tell your
cousins,
grandparents,
tell your enemies, tell your grandparents, tell your great-grandparents, tell your adoptive folks, tell everybody. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Daniel Young.
Thank you.
And remember, there's a live chat. There's a party every Monday night. Come hang out with us.
Oh yeah.
Well, there's Schnitzel Boys.
And maybe my daughter will walk in again. Who knows?
Yeah, Bjorn being a dad, that's fun and heartwarming to see. All right, tschüss. Bis nächste Woche.